I never thought I'd see Russell standing outside a gay club. Out of every person in the city, he was the last one I expected, not because he was some loud, outspoken straight guy who joked about people like me. He wasn't. Russell had always been respectful, calm, the kind of man everyone trusted without even realizing it. He was also my best friend's older brother, and for as long as I'd known him, he'd always seemed completely untouchable. So when I spotted him under the dim blue glow of a neon sign just after 11 on a rainy Friday night, I honestly thought I was imagining things. I stopped walking. He looked up, our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then his expression shifted from confusion to pure panic, and he turned like he was about to leave. I don't know why I called after him. Russell? He froze. Slowly he looked back over his shoulder. Philip? Great. Now we were both caught. I should probably explain how I ended up there. My name is Philip. I'm 25, work as a graphic designer, and I'm the kind of guy who overthinks absolutely everything. My best friend Tyler had spent years trying to convince me to visit that club. Nobody's going to care that you're there, he'd told me countless times. It's easy for you to say, I'd answer. Tyler had been comfortably out since high school. I'd come out much later. Even then, I wasn't exactly the life of the party. Crowded places made me nervous. Walking into a gay club by myself felt like jumping into deep water without knowing how to swim. For 6 months, I'd driven past the place. Sometimes I'd even park across the street. Every single time, I'd lose my nerve and go home. That Friday, I promised myself things would be different. I parked, sat in my car for almost 10 minutes, finally stepped outside, and then Russell appeared. If you'd asked me to list the people I expected to see there, his name wouldn't have made the top 1,000. Russell was 31. He worked as a project manager for a construction company, coached Tyler's old baseball team during summers, and somehow remembered everyone's birthday. He was dependable, responsible, the guy mothers loved and neighbors trusted with spare house keys. Girls flirted with him constantly. As far as anyone knew, he'd never dated anyone seriously. People joked that he was married to his job. Nobody questioned it, including me. Until now. Rain tapped softly against the pavement while we stared at each other across the parking lot. I finally walked closer. So, I said awkwardly. So, he echoed. Neither of us seemed interested in finishing the sentence. You coming in? I asked before my brain could stop my mouth. His eyes flicked toward the entrance, then back to me. I was. But then I saw you. I couldn't help laughing. Yeah, same. To my surprise, he laughed too, just once, quietly. The tension eased enough for both of us to breathe again. I'm not going to tell Tyler, I said, his shoulders visibly relaxed. I appreciate that. I mean it. I know. There was something different about his voice, not fear anymore. Relief, like he'd been carrying something heavy for years, and somehow it hadn't crushed him yet. You've never been here before? He asked. I shook my head. You? He smiled without looking at me. No. So we're both pretending we know what we're doing. Looks that way. Another silence settled between us, not uncomfortable, just strange. We'd known each other almost 5 years. Tyler and I met in college, and because of that, I'd spent birthdays, barbecues, football games, and holidays around Russell. He always treated me like family, asked about work, remembered little details I'd mentioned months earlier, offered to help whenever my car made weird noises. I admired him, maybe more than I should have. But admiration was safe, a harmless crush on someone who seemed completely unavailable. Now I wasn't sure what I believed anymore. You still want to go inside? I asked carefully. Russell looked at the club entrance for a long moment, then he surprised me. Only if I don't have to walk in alone. I smiled. I was thinking exactly the same thing. He chuckled. Guess we just saved each other. Neither of us realized it then. We thought we were simply helping each other through one awkward night. We had no idea that opening those doors together would change everything between us. The music hit us before the doors even closed behind us, not painfully loud, just enough to make conversation impossible unless you stood close. Colored lights swept across the room, bouncing off the polished floor, while people laughed, danced, and crowded around the bar. It wasn't anything like the intimidating place I'd built up in my head over the past 6 months. It just looked normal. People were having fun. Nobody cared who walked through the door. I glanced at Russell. He was taking everything in with the same cautious curiosity I probably had on my own face. And well, I said. Well, he replied. We made it. Barely. That earned another small laugh. For someone I'd always seen as completely confident, Russell suddenly looked surprisingly human, nervous, unsure. It made him seem younger somehow. Drink? I asked. I definitely need one. We found 2 empty stools at the far end of the bar. The bartender smiled. What can I get you? Russell looked at me. You order first. A vodka soda. And for you? Russell hesitated. Just a beer. When the bartender walked away, Russell rubbed the back of his neck. I haven't been this uncomfortable in years. You hide it well. I've had practice. His answer made me look at him. What do you mean? He stared into the crowd instead of answering immediately. I've spent most of my life pretending I belonged in places that never felt right. Something about the way he said it sounded rehearsed, like he'd admitted it to himself many times, but almost never out loud. Our drinks arrived. He took a long sip before speaking again. I almost turned around 3 times before coming inside. I smiled. I only turned around twice. That finally got a genuine grin out of him. So, we're equally pathetic. I prefer equally terrified. Fair. For the first time that night, we relaxed. An hour passed faster than I expected. We stayed near the bar, talking between songs. Not about anything serious. Work, Tyler, terrible apartment landlords, favorite movies. The conversation felt oddly easy. I'd talked to Russell dozens of times over the years, but always with other people around. This was different. It felt like I was meeting him for the first time. You know, he said eventually. You're quieter than Tyler. Everyone's quieter than Tyler. He laughed. True. I always wondered how you dealt with him growing up. I learned selective hearing. I need that skill. I can teach you. We both laughed. It felt comfortable, dangerously comfortable. A slower song started playing. Several couples wandered toward the dance floor. Neither of us moved. Russell watched them for a few seconds. I've never danced. You've never danced? He shook his head. Not with someone. I blinked. Seriously? I always found excuses. I stared into my drink. I've never danced with a guy either. Another silence, this one different, charged. Russell looked at me carefully. You want to change that? I looked toward the dance floor. My stomach immediately tightened. I'll embarrass myself. So will I. You've probably got rhythm, he snorted. Philip, I coach Little League. That's the closest I get to dancing. I laughed. Then he quietly held out his hand, not dramatically, not like in the movies, just a simple invitation. No pressure. I looked at his hand, then at him. He wasn't teasing. He genuinely looked just as nervous as I felt. I placed my hand in his. His fingers were warm, steady. Mine definitely weren't. We stayed near the edge of the dance floor. Neither of us knew what we were doing. I told you this was a mistake, I muttered. Russell smiled. You're still here. Barely. I can let go. For some reason, I tightened my grip instead. His eyes met mine. Neither of us said anything. The music faded into the background. There weren't complicated dance moves, no dramatic moments. We simply swayed awkwardly while trying not to step on each other's shoes. At one point, I accidentally did. Sorry, he laughed. Told you I'd embarrass myself. I stepped on you. Exactly. The awkwardness somehow made everything easier. Neither of us had anything to prove. When the song ended, we walked back toward the quieter hallway near the restrooms. I leaned against the wall. I actually had fun. You sound surprised. I am. Russell looked at me with a smile that slowly faded into something more thoughtful. Can I ask you something? Sure. When did you know? I understood immediately. When did I know I was gay? He nodded. I thought about it. Probably 16. You? He looked down at the floor. I spent 15 years trying to convince myself I wasn't. The words landed heavily between us. You never told anyone? He slowly shook his head. You're the first person I've ever said that to. I didn't know what to say, because the man standing in front of me wasn't just Tyler's older brother anymore. He was someone who had carried a secret alone for longer than I'd been an adult, and somehow, out of everyone in the world, I was the first person he trusted enough to tell. I wasn't prepared for what Russell said next, not because it was shocking, because of how quietly he said it. I thought if I ignored it long enough, it'd disappear. He gave a tired smile that didn't reach his eyes. It never did. For a moment, neither of us spoke. People walked past us toward the dance floor, laughing with their friends, completely unaware that my best friend's older brother had just shared the biggest secret of his life with me. That must have been exhausting, I said. It was. He rubbed his hands together. I dated women, not many, but enough to convince myself I was trying. Did it work? No. He looked almost embarrassed. I always found reasons to end things before they became serious. I nodded slowly. Everyone thought I was just picky. And Tyler? Russell let out a quiet laugh. He keeps trying to set me up. I remember. He introduced me to 3 different co-workers last year. How'd that go? I claimed I was too busy with work. You've used that excuse a lot, haven't you? For almost 10 years. His honesty made my chest tighten. This wasn't someone who'd been living a double life. This was someone who'd been hiding from himself. We stepped outside for some air. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets shiny beneath the streetlights. The night was surprisingly quiet compared to the music inside. Russell leaned against the brick wall beside the entrance. You know what's funny? What? I almost didn't come tonight. So did I. He smiled. If you hadn't been here, I probably would have gone home. Same. We looked at each other. It really had been chance. 2 people spending months building up the courage to walk through the same door on the same night, at almost the same time. You've had relationships? Russell asked. A couple. Serious? I shrugged. I thought they were. What happened? The first guy wasn't ready to come out. Russell looked guilty before I even finished. The second one wanted completely different things. You still talk to either of them? No. He nodded slowly. I've never even held another man's hand before tonight. I looked down instinctively. Our hands had touched while dancing. It hadn't seemed like much at the time. Now it felt strangely significant. I guess, technically, I smiled. You were my first. He laughed, covering his face with one hand. That sounded much worse than you intended. It absolutely did. We both laughed so hard that a couple walking past glanced over at us. For the first time that evening, Russell looked genuinely relaxed. It suited him. Around midnight, we went back inside. The club had gotten busier. Tyler would have loved it. I smiled at the thought. What? Russell asked. I was just imagining Tyler's reaction if he saw us. Russell groaned dramatically. He'd never let me live it down. Russell, you finally listened to me. Russell laughed. That's exactly his voice. He'd hug you in front of everyone. I know. He'd probably hug me too. You definitely. We both smiled. Then Russell's expression became thoughtful. I hate lying to him. I looked over. He's your brother. I know. He loves you. I know. He'd probably support you. Russell stared at the floor. I think he would. But I'm scared that probably isn't the same as definitely. I understood. Coming out always involved uncertainty. No matter how much you trusted someone, the DJ announced karaoke would start in 15 minutes. Half the room cheered. Russell looked horrified. Oh no. What? I hate singing. So don't. They always drag people up. You'll survive. He pointed at me. If I get dragged on stage, you're coming too. Absolutely not. You just agreed. I did not. You looked like you agreed. I blinked. He grinned. I'm counting it. Of course, 20 minutes later, someone from the staff started encouraging people near the bar to participate. Russell immediately took one step behind me. I turned around. Are you hiding? Maybe. They can still see you. They'll have to get through you first. I laughed. You coach baseball, but karaoke scares you? Baseballs don't judge my singing. That's debatable. He gave me an offended look. Then, before either of us could react, one of the staff members stopped in front of us. You two look like you're having the most fun in the room. Russell immediately pointed at me. He's singing. I stared at him. You traitor. The employee laughed. What about a duet? Russell looked at me. I looked back. Neither of us wanted to do it, which somehow made it tempting. One song, I said. Russell sighed dramatically. I cannot believe I'm agreeing to this. 5 minutes later, we stood on stage. I wanted the floor to open beneath me. Russell looked equally miserable. The first few notes started. We completely missed our cue. People laughed, not cruelly, just because it was obvious we had no idea what we were doing. Russell leaned toward the microphone. I think we're already losing. So am I. By the second chorus, we stopped caring. Neither of us could sing, not even a little. But we were laughing so hard between lyrics that somehow the entire room started cheering us on. When the song ended, we received applause that was far kinder than our performance deserved. As we walked off stage, Russell nudged my shoulder. We're never speaking of this again. Oh, I'm remembering this forever. He smiled. I had a feeling you'd say that. For the first time all night, I caught myself forgetting one important detail. Russell wasn't just my best friend's older brother anymore. He was becoming someone I genuinely enjoyed being around, and that realization felt far more dangerous than either of us was ready to admit. We left the club a little after 1 in the morning. Neither of us was ready to admit we didn't want the night to end. The parking lot was almost empty now, the rain having washed the air clean. Everything felt quieter than before, like the city itself had settled down. Russell unlocked his truck but didn't get in. I leaned against my car. So, he echoed again with a smile. We're really bad at ending conversations. We've had 4 failed goodbyes in the last 10 minutes. I noticed. He looked at me for a moment before speaking. Are you hungry? I laughed. It's 1 in the morning. So, that's a yes. I could definitely eat. There's a 24-hour diner about 5 minutes from here. I pretended to think about it. I guess I can make time. He smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The diner was almost empty. A sleepy waitress led us to a booth near the window before filling 2 mugs with coffee. Outside, the streets glistened under the lights. Inside, it smelled like fresh pancakes and bacon. It felt strangely comforting. Russell looked around. I haven't been here since Tyler graduated high school. He brought me here once, after finals. Russell smiled. He always orders way too much food. He still does. I believe it. We both ordered burgers. When the waitress walked away, Russell rested his forearms on the table. Can I ask you something a little personal? You've earned at least one. He hesitated. Were you scared when you came out? I laughed softly, terrified. Really? I thought my parents would be disappointed. Were they? My mom cried. Russell's expression fell. Not because she was upset, I quickly added. She cried because she felt bad that I'd been afraid to tell her. He let out a slow breath. And your dad? He hugged me. Russell looked out the window. I keep imagining the worst. I did too. He nodded. I've built up every possible disaster in my head. That's normal. Does it ever stop? I thought about it. The fear gets quieter. He smiled faintly. I'd settle for quieter. Our food arrived. Russell took one bite before pointing at me with a fry. Tyler once told me you nearly failed chemistry. I groaned. He promised never to tell anyone. He absolutely did not. He absolutely should have. Russell laughed. He said you accidentally melted a plastic beaker. It wasn't entirely my fault. I'm listening. Our professor never said it wasn't heat resistant. He definitely assumed you'd know. I was optimistic. You were dangerous. I was learning. He shook his head, still smiling. I wish I'd known you back then. The words came out so naturally that neither of us reacted immediately. Then we both did. Russell blinked. I didn't mean... It's okay. No, I meant... He rubbed the back of his neck. I mean, Tyler always talked about you. I smiled. I know what you meant. Still, something about that sentence lingered in my mind. We stayed at the diner almost another hour. The conversation drifted naturally. Favorite vacations, embarrassing childhood stories, music, books, the kind of things people usually learned during the first weeks of a friendship. Except we'd technically known each other for years. Somehow we'd skipped all of it. I always assumed you were intimidating, I admitted. Russell nearly choked on his coffee. Me? You. Philip, I'm terrified of karaoke. I know. You saw me hide behind you. I did. So how exactly am I intimidating? I smiled. You always seemed like you had everything figured out. He stared at his coffee. I've never had anything figured out. Around 3 a.m, we finally walked outside. The air had turned cool. Russell shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. I haven't talked this much in years. Neither have I. Really, I'm usually the quiet one. I noticed. But somehow, I looked at him. The talking to you isn't difficult. His expression softened. I was thinking the same thing. Neither of us moved toward our cars. Again, Russell laughed first. We're doing it again. The goodbye thing? Yeah. I looked at the empty parking lot. I guess neither of us wants to leave. He didn't answer immediately. Finally, no. My phone buzzed. Tyler. I glanced at the screen. Tyler, still awake and need help moving a couch tomorrow? I instinctively smiled. Russell noticed. My brother? Yeah. What did he do this time? Apparently he bought another couch. Russell sighed dramatically. Of course he did. He wants help moving it. I'll be there. I looked at him. You don't have to. He'll throw his back out if I don't. True. Russell chuckled. You coming? I was invited too. He smiled. Good. The next afternoon, I pulled into Tyler's driveway carrying coffee. Russell's truck was already there. I hadn't expected my pulse to speed up. The front door swung open before I reached it. Philip, Tyler called. You're late. I brought coffee. I forgive you. He grabbed one cup before pulling me inside, and the living room looked like complete chaos. A massive sectional couch sat in the middle of the room, surrounded by cardboard boxes. Russell was trying to read the assembly instructions. Tyler looked offended. Don't listen to him. Russell didn't even look up. I'm absolutely listening to the instructions. They're optional. They're literally not. I couldn't help laughing. Russell looked over at me. Our eyes met for just a second. He smiled. A small smile. Barely noticeable, but somehow it felt different from the night before. Warmer, more familiar. And for the rest of the afternoon, I caught myself noticing little things I never had before. The way Russell rolled up his sleeves when he worked, the way he laughed whenever Tyler exaggerated a story, the way he'd glance toward me every now and then, almost as if checking that I was still there. By the time we finished building the couch, one thought kept circling in my head. Last night wasn't just a coincidence anymore. It was the beginning of something. I just had no idea what that something was yet. Over the next 2 weeks, seeing Russell became normal. At least that's what I kept telling myself. It's what I kept. Tyler invited me over to watch baseball. Russell was there. We all grabbed burgers after work. Russell came too. Saturday afternoon barbecue at their parents' house. Russell was already standing at the grill, wearing a faded blue t-shirt with sunglasses pushed up into his hair, laughing at something Tyler had said. Every time I saw him, I noticed something new. Not because he'd changed, because I was finally paying attention. "Philip," Tyler tossed me a soda the second I stepped into the backyard. "You made it." "Barely." "Traffic?" "I got lost behind the slowest tractor in human history." Russell looked over from the grill. "That happens every summer. I've learned that now." He smiled. "Burger?" "I was hoping you'd ask." "You always hope people ask." "I never turn down free food." Tyler pointed at me. "See? That's exactly why I like him." Russell chuckled while flipping another burger. I thought it was his sparkling personality. That too. Most of the afternoon passed the way it always did. Tyler talked enough for 3 people. His parents teased both of them. Neighbors wandered in and out of the backyard, completely ordinary. Except it wasn't ordinary for me anymore, because every now and then I'd catch Russell looking my way, not staring, just checking in. Whenever our eyes met, he'd smile before turning back to whatever he was doing. It was subtle, maybe too subtle. Still, I noticed. Later that afternoon, Tyler disappeared inside to answer a work call. His parents walked next door to help a neighbor. Before I realized it, Russell and I were alone on the patio. The silence wasn't awkward. It almost felt expected. "You've been busy?" he asked. "A little." "Work still driving you crazy?" "As usual." He laughed. "I know that feeling." I leaned against the porch railing. "You look less tired." He looked surprised. "I do?" "Compared to the night we met." He thought about it. "I've actually been sleeping." "Really?" "For the first time in, I don't know." He smiled quietly. "I think telling someone helped." Those words stayed with me, not because they were dramatic, because they were honest. "I've been thinking." Russell looked almost nervous saying it. "That's dangerous." He laughed. "Probably." "What about?" He looked toward the yard before speaking. "I don't want that club to be the only place I feel like myself." I understood immediately. "What do you mean?" "I spent 31 years pretending." He sighed. "I don't want to keep pretending forever." I stayed quiet. He continued. "I don't know what comes next." "You don't have to." "I don't." "No?" He looked at me. "You just have to take one step at a time." He smiled. "You make it sound easy." It wasn't. No. But it gets easier. A baseball landed near the porch. Some neighborhood kid ran over to retrieve it before apologizing. Russell tossed the ball back with an easy throw. "You were always good with kids." He shrugged. "I like coaching. I can tell. They're honest. They're also loud." "They definitely are." He laughed. "So is Tyler. I think that's genetic." That evening, everyone helped clean up. As I carried empty plates inside, Russell caught up beside me. "You heading home?" "Yeah." "I was wondering—" He stopped. I waited. "Would you want to grab coffee sometime?" "Just us." He didn't say those words. He didn't need to. I tried to answer casually. "I'd like that." His smile appeared almost instantly. "Tuesday?" "I finish work at 5. I know a place. I'll meet you there." Tuesday somehow became the longest workday of my life. Every hour felt twice as long. I kept checking the clock. My co-workers noticed. "You got plans?" one of them asked. "A coffee." "With someone?" I smiled without thinking. "Yeah." The cafe Russell chose overlooked the river. Quiet, small, nothing like the noisy chain places around town. He was already there when I arrived, standing as soon as he saw me. "I got here early. I can tell." I wasn't sure how parking worked. I looked through the nearly empty parking lot. "Russell." "Yeah?" "There are 6 cars." "I know. You definitely overprepared." "I definitely did." I laughed. I kind of figured. This felt different. No Tyler, no family, no distractions, just us. We ordered coffee and found a table near the windows. Outside, people walked along the river path while the sun slowly started setting. Inside, conversation came naturally. "So," Russell stirred his coffee. "I've never actually been on a date." I blinked. "Date?" He immediately looked horrified. "I mean, not necessarily. I wasn't saying—" I couldn't stop smiling. You've completely lost the ability to form sentences. I really have. He rubbed his forehead. I meant, we're having coffee. We are. And we're two gay men. Also true. So, technically, he sighed dramatically, I don't know what this is. I let him struggle for another second before rescuing him. It can just be coffee. His shoulders relaxed. Coffee sounds good. But, he looked at me, if we decide later that it felt like a date, I smiled. I'm okay with that too. For a moment, Russell simply looked at me. Then he smiled. A real one. The kind that reached his eyes. Neither of us said another word for several seconds, because for the first time since we'd met outside that club, the possibility, hanging quietly between us, finally had a name. For the next week, neither of us mentioned the word date, not because we'd forgotten it, because we both remembered it too well. Instead, we settled into something that felt natural. We texted a lot. At first, it was practical. Russell, made it home? Me, yeah. You? Russell just walked in. Then it became random. Pictures of terrible office coffee, a dog he'd seen wearing a tiny raincoat, a meme making fun of construction workers. A photo of my lunch after I accidentally burned grilled cheese. His reply came almost immediately. Russell, I didn't know grilled cheese could become charcoal. Me, I'm talented. Russell, dangerously. A few days later, my phone rang just after work. Russell, I answered. Hey. There was a short pause. I was wondering if you wanted to walk by the river. Tonight? If you're free. I am. I'll meet you there in 20? I'll be there. The evening was warm enough that half the city seemed to be outside. Families rode bikes, couples sat on benches watching the sunset, dogs dragged their owners in every direction. Russell arrived wearing jeans and a dark green t-shirt carrying 2 iced coffees. I remembered your order. I smiled. You didn't have to. I wanted to. He handed me one. We started walking without really deciding which direction to go. So, I asked. So, you've officially turned so into your favorite word. He laughed. I've noticed. For a while we just enjoyed the weather. Conversation drifted from work to movies to travel. Eventually Russell slowed near the railing overlooking the river. I told Tyler no yesterday. I looked over. No? He tried introducing me to someone again. My stomach tightened before I could stop it. What happened? I thanked him. And? I told him I wasn't interested. Did he ask why? He said, one day I'm going to find you the perfect woman. Russell smiled sadly. I almost told him. You almost came out? He nodded. I wanted to. What stopped you? I wasn't ready. I understood. You don't owe anyone a deadline. I know. He stared at the water. I'm tired of hiding. We kept walking. After a few minutes, Russell quietly spoke again. Can I tell you something embarrassing? You've already admitted you're afraid of karaoke. This is worse. Now I'm interested. He rubbed the back of his neck. I've replayed that night at the club probably 50 times. I smiled. Only 50? He laughed. Maybe 100. I've thought about it too. You have? More than I'd like to admit. He looked relieved. I thought I was being ridiculous. I don't think you are. A group of joggers passed us. We stepped aside to let them through. When the path cleared again, our shoulders brushed. Neither of us moved away. It was such a small thing, barely noticeable, but after everything we'd shared, it felt significant. Russell glanced down for a second, then back at me. I like spending time with you. The words were simple, completely unpolished. Maybe that was why they felt so genuine. I like spending time with you too. His smile returned. I was hoping you'd say that. That Saturday, Tyler invited both of us to help paint his guest room. By lunchtime, we'd managed to get more paint on ourselves than on the walls. Tyler looked at Russell's shirt. You're hopeless. Russell pointed at me. He bumped the ladder. I absolutely did not. You startled me. I sneezed. Exactly. Tyler looked between us. You two are spending a lot of time together lately. My heartbeat skipped. Russell stayed remarkably calm. We've grabbed coffee a couple times. Tyler grinned. Good. We both looked at him. What? Tyler shrugged. I always thought you guys would get along. Russell and I exchanged a quick glance. If only he knew. Later that afternoon, Tyler ran to the hardware store for more paint. Russell and I stayed behind to clean brushes in the backyard. I think he suspects we're friends now, I said. Russell smiled. That's because we are. Friends. The word landed strangely. It wasn't wrong, but it also wasn't the whole truth anymore. Russell seemed to notice my expression. What? Nothing. Philip. I sighed. I'm just not sure that's all we are. He set the brush down. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, I've been thinking the same thing. My pulse quickened. He took a slow breath. I don't want to rush anything. I don't either. I've spent 31 years pretending to be someone else. He met my eyes. I'd like my first real relationship, He hesitated. If it happens, to start the right way. There was something incredibly vulnerable about the way he said it. No games, no dramatic declarations, just honesty. I'd like that too. A slow smile spread across his face. So I laughed immediately. There it is, again. My favorite word. So, he stepped just a little closer. Would it be okay if I held your hand? For a split second, I forgot how to breathe. Not because I didn't want him to, because he'd asked. He hadn't assumed. He'd given me the choice. I smiled. You don't have to ask. I wanted to. Slowly I reached for his hand. Our fingers intertwined naturally, warm, comfortable. Neither of us looked away. For anyone watching from across the yard, it probably would have seemed like the smallest moment imaginable. For us, it felt like the beginning of an entirely new chapter. For the next several days, holding Russell's hand stayed on my mind far more than I wanted to admit. Not because it had been dramatic. It hadn't. There was no audience, no grand confession, just two men standing in Tyler's backyard while paint dried inside the house. Yet somehow, it was the most meaningful thing that had happened to either of us in years. Russell texted me that evening. Russell, made it home? I smiled immediately. Me, yeah. You? A few seconds later. Russell, just got in. Then another message. Russell, thank you. I stared at the screen. Me, for what? His reply took longer this time. Russell, for being patient with me. My chest tightened. Me, you never have to thank me for that. 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Russell, I think you just changed my life. I didn't know how to answer that because, if I was honest, he'd changed mine too. The following Friday, Russell invited me to dinner. Not a crowded restaurant, just a quiet little Italian place across town. When I arrived, he was already waiting outside. You look nice, he said. The compliment caught me off guard. So do you. He laughed softly. I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes. I changed shirts 3 times. Really? I wanted to make a good impression. He smiled. You already have. Dinner felt effortless. We talked for nearly 2 hours without ever checking our phones. Somewhere between dessert and coffee, Russell grew unusually quiet. You okay? I asked. He nodded. Just thinking. About? He looked directly at me. I'm ready. For what? To tell Tyler. The words settled heavily between us. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He smiled nervously. I'm still terrified. You can be terrified and ready. I hope so. The conversation with Tyler happened 2 days later. Russell asked if I'd come over beforehand. Not to sit in on it. Just to be there. I think it'll help knowing you're close, he admitted. So I drove over that Sunday afternoon. We sat on the back porch drinking coffee while waiting for Tyler to get home from the grocery store. Russell barely touched his drink. Nervous? I asked. He laughed weakly. I feel like I'm about to jump out of an airplane. You don't have to do this today. I know. He looked toward the driveway. But I want to. A few minutes later, Tyler pulled in. He carried 2 grocery bags through the front door before spotting us outside. There you guys are. He smiled. What's going on? Russell stood. Can we talk? Tyler immediately noticed the seriousness in his voice. Sure. Russell looked at me. I'll be inside. I nodded. You've got this. He took one slow breath, then followed his brother into the living room. I stayed on the porch, not because I was afraid, because that conversation belonged to them. The next 20 minutes felt like 2 hours. I watched birds hop across the fence, cars pass by, neighbors mow their lawns, anything to stop myself from imagining every possible outcome. Finally, the back door opened. Russell stepped outside first. His eyes were red. My stomach dropped. Then Tyler came out behind him. Without saying a word, he walked straight over to Russell and wrapped him in the biggest hug I'd ever seen. Russell completely broke down. Not dramatically, just years of tension disappearing all at once. Tyler held onto him tightly. I've got you, he said quietly. I've always got you. Russell laughed through tears. I'm sorry I waited so long. Tyler shook his head. You tell me when you're ready. Another long hug. Then Tyler looked over at me. You knew? I nodded carefully. I found out a few weeks ago. He walked over. For one terrifying second I wondered if he was upset. Instead, he hugged me too. Thank you. I blinked. For what? For making my brother smile again. I looked at Russell. He was smiling, really smiling. The kind of smile I'd never seen on him before, free. That evening, the 3 of us ordered pizza. Nothing felt awkward. If anything, Tyler seemed relieved. So, that's why you kept rejecting every woman I introduced you to. Russell groaned. Please don't start. I'm just saying, I owe a lot of people apology texts. Russell covered his face. You absolutely do not. Tyler laughed. I won't. He looked at both of us. I'm just happy you don't have to pretend anymore. Russell glanced toward me. Neither of us said anything. We didn't need to, because for the first time since I'd met him, there wasn't a secret standing between us anymore. Only one conversation remained, the one Russell and I had been quietly avoiding ever since that first coffee, the conversation about us. 3 days passed before Russell finally asked me to meet him, not at the river, not at the cafe. Instead, he texted me an address I didn't recognize. Russell, trust me? I smiled. Me. Always. The address turned out to be a quiet hill overlooking the city. There was a small park at the top, with a wooden bench facing the skyline. The sun was beginning to set when I arrived. Russell was already there, hands in his jacket pockets, looking unusually nervous. You picked a nice place? I said. He smiled. I come here whenever I need to think. I can see why. For a minute, we simply watched the city below us. The buildings glowed orange beneath the evening light. Cars crawled through the streets like tiny lights. Everything felt peaceful. Then Russell broke the silence. I've been rehearsing this conversation. How many times? Too many. I laughed softly. I've been doing the same thing. That made him smile. He took a slow breath. I've spent most of my life waiting. Waiting until work settled down. Waiting until I felt ready. Waiting until I became someone who wasn't afraid. He looked at me. But I've realized something. I stayed quiet. You don't stop being afraid. You just eventually decide something matters more. My heart was beating so hard, I was sure he could hear it. You matter more. Those 4 words hit me harder than any dramatic speech ever could. Russell stepped a little closer. The night we met outside that club, he smiled. I thought my life was falling apart. He laughed quietly. It turns out it was finally coming together. I need to tell you something too, I said. He nodded. I had a crush on you long before that night. His eyebrows lifted. Seriously? I never planned to tell anyone. You hit it well. I had years of practice. He smiled knowingly. I guess we both did. I convinced myself nothing could ever happen. And now? I looked directly into his eyes. Now I'm standing here hoping you'll kiss me. For about 2 seconds, Russell completely forgot how to breathe. Then he laughed. I spent the entire drive here hoping you'd say something like that. You could have said it first. I know. What stopped you? He smiled sheepishly. I was scared. I reached over and gently bumped his shoulder. So was I. Russell slowly lifted his hand, not to rush me, not to surprise me, just giving me every chance to step back if I wanted. Instead, I closed the remaining distance. His hand rested lightly against my cheek. Philip? Yeah? Can I kiss you? I smiled. I was wondering how long it'd take you to ask. He laughed, then gently. He kissed me. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't dramatic, just warm, careful, and somehow perfect. When we finally pulled back, neither of us spoke for several seconds. Russell rested his forehead lightly against mine. I've wanted to do that since the coffee shop, I laughed. I was hoping you'd say, the club. I wanted to. He grinned. But I was terrified. I know. The months that followed felt surprisingly normal, which, honestly, was my favorite part. Russell wasn't suddenly a different person. He was simply happier. Lighter. Tyler adjusted faster than either of us expected. The first time he caught Russell holding my hand during a family barbecue, he looked at us for exactly 2 seconds before saying, "So," Russell groaned immediately. "Don't." Tyler grinned. "Does this mean I was accidentally setting my own brother up with my best friend?" I nearly choked on my drink. Russell buried his face in one hand. "I can't believe you figured it out after everything else." Tyler laughed. "You two have been looking at each other like idiots for months." "We were not." "You absolutely were." His parents looked between the three of us in complete confusion. Tyler simply smiled. "I'll explain later." Russell's parents were just as supportive. His mother cried, exactly the way mine had. His father hugged him for nearly a full minute before quietly saying, "I wish you'd trusted us sooner." Russell admitted later that those words stayed with him for weeks. Not because they made him feel guilty, because they reminded him how much time fear had stolen. About 6 months after that first night at the club, Russell and I went back. Same parking lot, same entrance, same blue neon sign. We stood exactly where we'd first recognized each other. "You almost ran away," I reminded him. "You hid behind your car." "I absolutely did." "You looked terrified." "I was." Russell smiled. So was I. He reached for my hand. This time, neither of us let go. We walked inside together. No pretending, no hiding, no fear. Just two men who'd found each other completely by accident, or maybe exactly when they were supposed to. As we reached the bar, Russell leaned closer with a smile. "You know, what? If you hadn't stopped for gas that night..." I finished the sentence for him. "We probably never would have met like this." He nodded. "I think about that sometimes." "So do I." The music started. Russell held out his hand. "Dance with me." I smiled, slipping my fingers into his. "I thought you'd never ask." And this time, neither of us cared if we stepped on each other's feet.